Thank you, David. It's me again. Sorry. I would like to invite my panelists, Ben, Charlotte, Andy, where are we? And Eleanor. They have all been to the stage before, so I'm not going to waste any of your precious time on introducing them. I'm missing one. Andy Knight. He's gone. he's made his pitch already. That's all good. So this session is called Call to Action, and I would like to wrap up this amazing seminar symposium with some commitment from the three key organizations to what we're going to do next, what we've heard here, what we have learned, and how we're going to take action from here. And I would like to start with you, Charlotte. You spent over 2 days now listening to what the biogas sector in New Zealand looks like. Is it a sense of deja vu for you, as in every country has the same issues, and we know what we should be doing, or is our situation unique in any way? And if it is unique in any way, how?
Well, let me start by saying, is this working? Yeah. That this has been one of the most positive and constructive and useful conferences I've been to in the 15 years of being involved in this sector. So I would endorse Brian's compliments to the organisers, because I think it's been really exceptionally valuable. And I think making sure that participants from all different sectors who are involved in the process are here is really important, because and somebody made a comment yesterday, I think, about the importance of collaboration. This is a circular economy technology process. It simply isn't going to happen without that collaboration and working together and positive attitude. So just thinking about where New Zealand is to other countries. I mean, obviously, you've built the first plant, a fantastic plant. I wish I could have come and seen it. Other countries are more advanced, other countries are less advanced than that. But what I think is extraordinary is you have built this first plant, and I think there's an opportunity to, in some respects, to leapfrog other countries, because you can learn from the experience of other countries. And if there's any extent to which we can sort of help connect with people who've had past experiences, so you don't have to go through the learning or reinventing the wheel, then we're very happy to do that. But it does feel very positive, and I think the opening statements from the minister, who happens to cover several relevant ministries, or sort of parts of that normally might sit with different ministries, is kind of very helpful. That I think he said the word commit and commitment several times in his opening speech, which was incredibly positive. I think that the really important thing is now sort of, as you've started to do, or have been thinking about for a long time, is turning this into an action plan, because there are so many things that sort of need to happen and be coordinated for it to work, that sort of having that clear plan in place will enable the industry to scale up much faster than perhaps in other countries. It was certainly the case in the UK that when the coalition government came in, with both parts of the coalition making a commitment to deliver a huge increase in energy from waste through anaerobic digestion, they then had to implement a strategy and action plan, and that was the time at which the UK industry grew fastest, because there was a clear direction of travel, a clear commitment, clear government support in terms of subsidy mechanisms, and so it simply did grow fastest. So it feels quite positive from after these two really useful days here.
Thank you. You teed me up perfectly for my next question to you. That's a bit of a pet question of mine, so please bear with me. Feedstock diversion to AD, from landfill to AD. How critical is that how critical is policy in enabling that, or in securing that the organics go to AD indeed. We've got a Ministry for Environment who is technology agnostic. They're prepared to support segregation and separate collection of organic waste. They're not prepared to commit to one technology. But then we also have dwindling gas stores. And unless we divert the organics to AD, that resource will get not really wasted, but the energy won't come from it. How you mentioned the UK as an example. Have you seen other countries implementing some sort of a commitment to divert organics from landfill to AD being implemented?
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you. I don't think it'll happen unless there is policy behind that. Somebody either today or yesterday highlighted the cost savings that they could deliver to an organisation if they moved from landfill to AD of $1 million, and they still weren't moving. So something's got to make that change. And whilst I get the point about being technology neutral, but you can't avoid the impacts. And if you don't clearly state that anaerobic digestion gives a better outcome than composting, then you may not get it going to anaerobic digestion, and therefore you're leaving all the energy behind that is clearly one of the biggest drivers for the industry here in New Zealand. So I think you can be technology neutral, but you have to at least set some kind of objectives in terms of extracting the best value out of these waste resources. They are waste resources. So I think that's where the waste hierarchy in the UK has been particularly valuable, because it ranks anaerobic digestion above composting. So, it clearly is better. There may be other technologies that come in that are better than anaerobic digestion. We'll have to change the name of our association, but that doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, the underlying principle is what technology or process gets the most value out of these organic waste resources. And that's where somehow policy needs to drive that behaviour, while still you can still be technology neutral.
Thank you. That's a great answer. Ben, you're here representing GasNZ. We've just heard about waste hierarchy. We have heard energy hierarchy mentioned in one of the panels, as in which energy should go to which application. How do we intersect those two? And how do we enable that intersection to happen in a meaningful way from your association's perspective?
Yeah, I think that is one of the key challenges that Chase was sort of mentioning in respect of the roadmap. We can put out a GasNZ roadmap to 2050 that comes purely from the energy perspective and sector, but I think that'll fall short. I think that's where we've sort of seen the need to have forums like this, where we can actually learn from the waste industry, what's going on, what's driving change within that industry. I mentioned at the outset the agriculture industry and its importance here in New Zealand as well, and I think bringing them into the picture could be really impactful. So, I mean, I think for GasNZ, we do, I guess, what we see is the energy sector in New Zealand is fundamentally changing. We've got an urgent problem to solve. And I think, in some respects, we're doing our bit for biogas, and the fact that industrial gas prices have increased by 50% in the last 3 years, so there's a bit of a pull for any sources of gas. It's not getting cheaper anytime soon to produce natural gas in New Zealand, but it still feels like there's missing value in terms of the energy security benefits, the diversity of supply, not to mention the decarbonisation and the question of whether the ETS is fully valuing that benefit from an energy perspective as well. So I think as GasNZ, we need to continue to highlight those benefits from biogas for the energy system, as well as collaborating with other sectors to make it happen.
Brilliant. Thank you. Andy, I'll skip Eleanor for now, but a question to you. You mentioned gas mandate, and we saw the engagement from the sector to support the mandate. Is mandate enough to drive the growth?
No. So the short answer is no. I mean, it requires a whole lot of things to come together. Gas price, Ben was mentioning, gas prices are already above. There's industrial customers buying gas above what you sold your gas for. So, which at the time was thought to be, well, people will have to pay a premium to buy gas, to buy biogas. Actually, now gas prices are trading above that. So, for some industrial customers. So, could have got more.
Money on the table.
But whether they settle there is another matter. But so I think that price issue has gone out of the market to some extent.
Yeah.
And it's actually about the security of supply and the other matters that people can pitch for. And we are in a difficult transition. This is going to be a disruptive transition. We no longer have in front of us a transition that appears it will be smooth and it'll be managed through great government policy, great regulation, great industry investment, but mainly because none of that's been happening. So that's the issue. And you've got a government here who, the Minister was very clear. He's very supportive. And I thought his messages were, pretty concise, pretty clear. He wants to see this happening. He wants to see us, in terms of my GIC hat, doing everything we can to help. And what we can do to help is about enabling. The other government agencies, he called out ECA for the work they're doing as well. And, there's certainly a drive there from the government to see things happening. But what you've got here is a government that won't make the investments for you. And the industry needs to take the opportunity that the disruptive transition is giving you to invest. Now, investment takes a bit of risk, but I would say that industry needs to take more ownership of the outcomes. Don't rely on government to do things for you. Don't wait for government to give you just the blueprint. Actually, you are empowered and enabled and resourced to do things where you need things from government. Ask for it, but don't just ask for money, right? There's much more that enables this transition to happen than just asking for some dollars every now and then, because it looks like I think you're selling yourself short if that's what they do. So the short answer is no, it's not enough. It is interesting that there was a pretty overwhelming. I felt maybe some of the people at the front were too shy to sit down early, it was quite an overwhelming response. Now, this is a particular audience, but this is the audience of the industry that should be making biogas happen. And if you're not prepared to step up and make it happen, no one will make it happen for you.
Fantastic. In terms of GIC, if we get all the stars to align and there's 10 AD plants being built over the next 2 years, what is the next thing we need to do, or GIC needs to do, to make it easier? We've got gas certification scheme, we've got carbon intensity protocol, we've got injection standard. We've got those things. What is the next thing that GIC needs to do to enable these plants to inject biomethane into the grid with the most ease?
I'd love to have an answer, but we actually don't know.
Okay.
So we've spent time sitting around going, what is it we need to do to make more happen? And we've worked really hard at that. I've got 4 people from my team here. They're trying to learn from you. If there's more we need to do outside of those 3 or 4 key work streams, you need to tell us. We do a consultation every year where we put up our work streams and say, this is what we're going to be doing for the next year, and this is what we're doing the year after. If there's something we're not doing, you need to let us know, because we can easily build these things into our work stream. But those 3 or 4 key things were the things we thought we'd go after. Didn't include a mandate, by the way. We can add that in. But you need to let us know. Don't be shy.
I think one idea straight here for you. What we've experienced with Raparoa is, as a small producer, we have to nominate our gas production on a day-to-day basis, which is really difficult in a biogas plant. And as a small producer as well, we've got, variable conditions and that sort of stuff. So one of those things that could be done is removing the obligation to nominate your gas production on a day-to-day basis. If you can make it happen for us, I think that would take a lot of headache from the retailers or the shippers and the producers as well.
So I actually think that's a reasonably easy thing to do. And it's a really good example. No one's ever raised it with me. It's actually around the tolerances. Because if you're wrong by 100%, no one cares. Yep. So, with the greatest respect to you, to your volumes, if you're wrong by 100%, no one cares. So, actually, why does that matter? Yeah. Now, we do need to have a rule that says if people are injecting gas into the system, you've got to put a nomination in. But then you come down to tolerances around those sorts of things. And that's probably a better way to deal with those issues. Yeah. We do have some tolerance rules in various parts of how the system works around balancing and reconciliation allocation. So maybe this is an opportunity to think again about extending that. Great example. No one's ever said that to me. I can see Alex is frantically writing down, because I'm now promising that Alex is going to sort that out for you.
Brilliant, thank you. Tick. Eleanor, thank you, Andy. You're here as a board member of Bioenergy Association. What can bands do from here? What are we going to be focusing on?
Well, I think bands does a great job.
Is it on?
Should we go?
There we go. Power of a button. So I think bands has some great work streams that they're working through. We already have a kind of a bioenergy target of what we think that we can achieve. What we probably need to do more strongly is, work across, those wider industries. This event today is a great opportunity for Bioenergy Association and GasNZ to come together to be able to bring more joint thinking and more, kind of joint approaches to some of these strategies. So being able to use the work, that Bioenergy Association has already done. I think Brian mentioned before some of the technical available of information. There's actually a wealth of knowledge that sits within the Bioenergy Association and all of its members and its passionate kind of technical people who drive a lot of this work forward in each of the special interest groups. And so I think probably it's that plea for people to actually understand what information is out there that we can support with and come along and join and be part of the conversation. And so I think the key role for the Bioenergy Association is to just continue to be that technical champion and policy advocate, and I guess working together across all of the parts of the different industry bodies and the regulators to kind of feed and share that information along and collaborate more is probably the bit that we need to maybe take a step change in. One of the panelists mentioned that the councils are not quite clear on the why. What could we do to give them the why? Yeah, I think for me, what's really interesting when you look at councils is that they've sort of got this view around obviously what they need to do, and they've got ratepayers and they've got concerns around that. And I guess when I look at it, and I put my kind of other hat on as a person who works with all of industry across New Zealand and along with my team, is really around the New Zealand economy is really interconnected from an industry point of view. You take the Central North Island, you've got the pulp and paper mills in the middle, there. Actually, when you look at where some of their byproducts and chemicals and energy interconnectedness goes, where their packaging goes to food producers, like all of our industry is incredibly interconnected. And so if you if we don't recognise that industry is the backbone of a lot of our economy here, both from the food sector all the way through as to how do we actually get it out to export, you know, the pulp and paper mills that provide the packaging for the kiwi fruit, which was said from MPI, look at the billions of dollars that contributes towards our economy. That is all fundamentally based on energy. And so for councils, the why has got to be that your people work at these places. That's where their jobs are. This is where the revenue that comes that supports, you know, the reason that councils exist in these regions. So that for me is the really clear why for the councils, is that what can they actually do that actually helps drive a much stronger economy for their local region. So that would be my why. But I mean, I'm really passionate about industry in general and keeping it here in New Zealand and not having it escape offshore where, you know, it won't be as well done or as sustainably done. So it is really important to me that councils look at that system lens, look at the opportunity for more circular agriculture, look at the opportunity for really getting, I really love the idea of the waste hierarchy having energy, you know, AD higher up because of the energy fact of what you're actually getting that additional value out of the waste. So really, I guess, understanding that lens for your own region and how, what the energy demands there. There are lots of industry out there right now who really need gas. Either they can't transition because the temperatures are too high and therefore they can't electrify, or they can't electrify because to electrify, the capital costs of actually getting the upgraded electricity to their site, let alone the capital costs to then upgrade their equipment on site to switch from gas to electricity. Those are all capital cost buckets that are, you know, quite vastly exceeding what they can afford, but they might be able to afford more expensive gas on an ongoing OPEX basis. They might be able to kind of justify that. And so therefore that's the bit where I think we're underselling gas at the moment as a fuel for our industry, and understanding that if we don't continue to support it and we don't continue to make it a more sustainable option, we really risk losing a lot of industry.
It sounds like some of the case studies need to be put together and really promoted. It just feels like, yes, some of the mills have shut down because of the lack of gas, but kind of got swept under the carpet. And so I think maybe one of the actions for bands could be really putting the case studies together around the need for hard to abate industries and how biogas can support it at what economic value to not just them, but the greater export and the greater industry in New Zealand. It could be an interesting action to take.
Yep.
Charlotte, if I can come back to you, World Biogas Association is an amazing resource, and you've put together a certification standard, you've put together a regulatory framework. Can you see a way how we could collaborate together on accelerating biogas in New Zealand, and how would that be done? You've done that work with India, Brazil, and now you're moving to other countries. Could New Zealand be the next on your list, and what would it take for us to work together with WBA?
Well, New Zealand could definitely be on our list. Obviously, it requires resources to our team's resources and resources to be able to continue that engagement. I think there's probably two things I'd sort of want to say. One is that using the regulatory framework, it's really important to think about, to your point, that if government is not actually going to provide any direct subsidy for the industry, you have to look at every other cost or revenue or risk to identify where government policy can actually either reduce a cost, increase a revenue, reduce a risk, in such a way that we get to the key point that I made right at the very beginning, and I think Chris made very well in his Invest in New Zealand presentation, that investors really only care about achieving the necessary return on investment, and they can put their money anywhere. So investors really, there are very few investors who are just fans of biogas, who are going to put their money into biogas no matter what. They have to achieve that ROI. So I think the good thing is there are lots of opportunities, again, because we're a circular economy process where we can look at all the input costs and just take food waste collections, for example. When the UK industry first started, local authorities were paying the industry gate fees of upwards of £50 a tonne. And then as the industry rolled out, that quickly fell to the point that I've heard of operators paying over £100 a tonne for feedstock. And if you just think about that delta, it would yes. So it's a really big issue. Similarly, if something can be done on digestate, whether there's a fertiliser obligation or something, you're producing so much digestate that change the price of that just a little bit, and it changes the economics enormously. Yeah. So really being very thorough in going through that process to look at all the costs, revenues, risks, to try to get to the point where you get to the holy grail of an ROI that makes investors happy, and having long-term certainty really makes a difference. That's just got to do that, and identifying where government policy is prepared to do things that will help but not necessarily cost. And then one more thing I really want to say, because I feel that we haven't done this very well, but communication is just so important, and it's come up here so many times. Each one of us and every single person in New Zealand is a waste producer, a waste controller, a buyer of energy. And this industry is delivering so much value, but we have to communicate it to people so that they really understand. So I think it's absolutely worth putting together some money and getting a really good PR company to sell the industry and just make sure everybody understands why it's so great. It's worth every penny, and we haven't done it, so I feel really guilty that we haven't done it, but we must do it too. So and maybe that's something that we can just make sure is in our work plan for this forthcoming year, because it's the same message everywhere. But so important to bring everybody with you.
Fantastic, thank you. Ben, what do we need to do to get from being the warm-up gig to Oasis, to be the Oasis?
Oh, look, I really liked Chris Burgess's vision of a network of regional facilities. Like, I really believe in that. We've seen so many images of your wonderful facility at Reparoa. We're a little bit sick of seeing that photo, actually. But it's so good, and what we need is, like, as you said, like 10 more of those. Like, we have enough, and ECA's doing its great work on mapping organic waste feedstocks, but we already know we've got enough organic waste to fuel 10 regional facilities across the country. I think the challenge, to Charlotte's point is, how do you get to investable propositions for those, let's say, 10 facilities? Let's start small, because I actually think you could probably do a lot more than that. But I think maybe one angle which we haven't looked at so much is the sort of procurement angle of, okay, well, if there's 10 and they're regional facilities, you've got multiple councils that might need to be involved in each facility. How do we sort of convene a procurement process that engages private sector investment? Jared Irving from LMS mentioned PPPs, sort of some standardised model for actually building out the infrastructure that we need to make this happen. I think I'd love to see that. Maybe for those of you who are attending Charlotte's session later, I'd be keen to hear more from Charlotte about whether that sort of thing's happened globally. But yeah, just make it really easy for councils to opt in to some regional facilities that ultimately builds out that network.
That's a really good question, Charlotte. Would you care to answer?
I don't actually know the answer, but it's a really good suggestion. And there are local authorities that have made commitments to net zero. Some local authorities also have quite significant pension funds to invest. So and they procure and use a lot of energy. So why couldn't they make some kind of link between the waste that they're producing or collecting or having collected and the energy that they're buying? So I do think there's an opportunity to be creative and think about how these things could be aligned.
Brilliant. So if I can have one action that from each one of you that you will do first thing on Monday morning when you get back to your office to enable biogas in New Zealand to grow, what would it be? Andy, I'll start with you.
I'll be reading the mandate requests, hopefully. I think pick up on the sell the dream concept. So I think the industry needs to be selling the dream, particularly to the councils.
Right.
At least part of the sector, and I'm talking about the wider gas sector, my view, their future depends on biogas. The gas networks, I think, your future depends on the biogas. You don't have a long-term future without it, because you'll end up with connection bans and other things. So I'd be spending that money to sell the dream.
Thank you.
Well, I guess to add to that, Becca has the privilege of working with almost every council in the country. So, I guess I can see it as my role to go to all of our people that work with local government to then make sure that we are clear on selling the bioenergy dream. Because a little bit like you said that the gas, networks and operators, I think industry, which is, what all of my team service and support, depends a lot on us selling that dream for New Zealand and to kind of make sure that we keep industry here. So, I've got twice the reason to be selling the dream.
Thank you.
So Andy's already told me I need to write a letter on Monday, and Charlotte's told me I need to engage a PR company. So I think I'm going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, that's good. And Charlotte, how about you?
Well, I've talked to quite a few people over the last few days, and sort of want to make sure that we can make our networks accessible, connecting people with similar issues, so that the people who've got experience or similar issues can be connected together and learn from each other is one thing. Obviously, if we can find any way to provide support, we're delighted to do that. And I'm really cross at myself that we haven't done that sort of global PR campaign. So I too want to go back and see if we can pull something together on that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Any questions from the forum whilst I'm reading what's on the... Do we have any questions? Brian?
Well, Peter, what are you going to do on Monday morning?
That's a very good question. I think I was so hyped up about this event that I didn't plan anything beyond this point. So my calendar is empty. So give me the weekend and I'll get back to you. But honestly, I just want to say this has been the most amazing event and I could not have imagined it to go any better. So really, really appreciate you guys taking the time and making this dream a reality. And it's been a shot in the arm to get this encouragement from the forum here. Any questions? No questions? I'm reading. What do you suggest we ask the minister to put in? Is that an old question? Put in the box. I think that was for Chase. Do we have any new questions? Oh, here we go. How can the biogas industry help address the gas crisis caused by declining production in Taranaki? Could things like LNG import overshadow biogas momentum? That's a good question.
I'll do that one then. So my view would be that LNG imports won't inhibit biogas. In fact, probably for some customers will bring a price point where biogas can pretty happily exist. The variable cost on LNG imports, we think, and we've published some reports on it, they're on our website, we think it's around the cost of biogas. So it's about the same, the variable cost. So we would see that the two sit very nicely alongside each other.
Thank you. There's a suggestion for the PR thing. Apparently, Australian energy producers has been running ad campaigns on Australian television about importance of gas improving public sentiment. Could we copy that here? I think we all need to go and Google that on Monday morning. Can we leverage the all of government gas procurement contract?
Can I address that first one?
Yeah.
Once again, thanks for a great conference. The industry associations have done a woeful job of promoting the industry. And I think it's come about from people not wanting to stick their heads up. Biogas is a four-letter word. Gas has been a four-letter word for a little while. Coal, surprisingly, is no longer a four-letter word. But the industry associations, ERA and GANZ, you've got to do more. And the membership of those organisations has got to be prepared to fund more. So there's your plug. The industry associations should do more. The industry needs to get behind them to sell the message harder, because the people who don't want biogas, and there are some, and the people who don't want other forms of fuel that can be managed, they're really lobbying hard. So you do need to do more.
Brilliant. Thank you. There's a question for Charlotte. Does the WBA have a database of lessons learned from the various international biogas plants incidents that we can access?
It's a super good question. It's something that we've been wanting to put together. Actually, it hasn't been WBA so much that's been wanting to do it. I also run the UK trade body, ADBA, and we've been really wanting to do it because it's just so important. Our challenge has been that the regulator won't give us information about incidents until they've finished their investigation, because they say it could compromise any legal proceedings. As a former lawyer myself, I don't agree with that. I think there's more than ample opportunity to indicate what might have been wrong and to suggest that we might communicate areas of focus that the industry should be making sure they're checking. So I'd love to do that, and I'll take that away as something that we should try and see how we can do it.
Brilliant. Thank you. I would like to engage the audience now. We had 3 goals to achieve with this forum. And I would like to ask you to raise your hand if you feel like we have achieved that. The first goal was to educate the industry about biogas and what role it plays. Who of you have learned something here in those 2 days? Brilliant. The second goal was to identify barriers to the growth. Who of you feel like we have zeroed in, or we have spoken enough about what the barriers are? Do you understand what the barriers are? Brilliant. And the third level or the third goal was to define actions and be clear about what we're going to do next. Who of you are taking some actions away for yourselves, for your companies, for your industry to put into place when we go back? Brilliant. I think we've nailed it. Thank you. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you for all the answers.